And good morning. It is 22 minutes after 7 o'clock, and joining us in studio this morning, City Development Director Kevin Maevers back with us. Good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
How was your holiday, Thanksgiving?
Excessive.
That's what we're. It's if I got to be honest, if you're not complaining about all the food you ate, you kind of did it wrong.
Yeah, you did. So. I think that's the whole point. Is to, beginning at about Halloween with all the candy and the sweets and the treats and everything else, and then continuing through the combination of the savory and the sweet at Thanksgiving, and then all the way until Christmas. We've got about 8 weeks there of excessiveness for which we will all pay the price the other 10 months out of the year.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've yet to hear from one person to come back from Thanksgiving holiday saying, no, I ate smartly and sensibly and I feel great today. Yeah. I haven't heard that statement yet.
Pretty much, yeah. That's the antithesis of the way I spent it.
Well, even healthy eaters. You know what I mean? People that are like, I go vegan or whatever. They ate a pound of whatever it is they're eating. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, the Thanksgiving holiday is over. We got to roll our sleeves up for a little bit between the next grazing fest here and the Christmas holidays and all of that. But and in between that, the city did meet for a planning and development meeting.
We had our planning and zoning commission meeting last night.
Yeah,
relatively light meeting, but still some important projects.
That a lot of turkey tryptophan going.
Well, let's just say audience participation was light.
Yeah, yeah, I could imagine. There a lot of things are on other people's minds.
A lot of things on other people's mind, but we did have a couple of our solar arrays come through. So our community solar arrays.
Giving us updates there on some of that? Or?
The city is approaching the community solar array program a little bit differently than the county. The county is and I know they're still kind of agonizing over the proximity to the agricultural lands and some impacts there. We took a slightly different approach where we sat down and really looked at what could be the potential negative impacts of having a community solar array and what were the positive impacts of the community solar array. And the first thing you have to remember with all of these is that the reason there's been such a rush over the past few months to find sites for and again, these are potential arrays. There's no guarantee these things are ever
These are just areas we're designating, saying if you want to put one here, this is going to be an acceptable spot.
But and now the application process starts, and everybody's got all these solar developers have got to get all their information into the state. The state has got to grant the funding and get the program going. And there's only so much money to go around, as you would expect. So there's going to be a whole lot more applications than there are actual awards going through. But we went ahead and looked at it from a very practical perspective. It's like, you know what? A community solar array is a good idea. All right. It's a rather innocuous use. The old solar arrays that I used to deal with 20, 30 years ago, there was concerns over what they called the heat island effect. You get the reflective heat off of it.
Gotcha.
And if you were downwind of that, you could feel the heat coming off the arrays.
Gotcha.
There was concern about overflights and glare and other things. And let's face it, the things are not exactly the most aesthetically beautiful in the world. So we talked a lot with the developers, and new technology pretty much eliminates glare completely.
Okay.
The same new technology also eliminates a lot of the heat concerns. And because these are smaller, they're not the big gigantic arrays like you see being built out in the deserts of Arizona and California.
Think of it in TV terms. Look at a TV from 30 years ago and look at a TV from now.
Right.
It's night and day different. Guess what? Solar panels and a lot of other technologies the exact same way.
And they're much more efficient now and everything else. So we said, okay, if the technology is advanced this far and the city and the citizens are going to benefit, because part of the program is the idea is we're bringing in once these things are up and operational, they'll tie to the grid. They will sell their power being generated to the put it in the grid at a lower price than what we're currently getting.
Sure.
So the subscribers will get a 10% discount. Plus, there's some other things, some social benefit stuff that goes along with it. All right. If we can say that it's an overall social benefit, then how do we go ahead and mitigate any other concerns? Biggest one being aesthetics. Well, we mitigate those by making sure that things are appropriately screened. Things are there's landscaping around if it's visible from a main highway and other things. And we just make it we integrate it into the backdrop of the community. So we've gone ahead here at the city and we developed a list of what we call conditions of approval. And within those conditions of approval, it requires an 8-foot high screen wall, maximum 10 foot high on the solar arrays. So you'll only see them popping up occasionally as they rotate to follow the sun and things. And then made sure they were sited appropriately. And we worked with the neighbors to deal with any potential flood concerns or things like that. And so we addressed all the issues. And that's why our Planning and Zoning Commission has felt pretty good about going ahead and approving a few of these things.
Sure.
So I think this was tonight. Last night was our 4th and 5th solar array we've approved here in town. Might be wrong about that number, but I know it's about that many. We'll see what happens from here. It's
Sure.
The ball's back in the court of the developer, the solar developer now.
Gotcha.
So.
Well, and it's whatever your feelings are on alternative energy sources, I'm kind of like, if it works and it's great, bring it on. Bring all to the party. The way I kind of feel about it. And to me, this looks like it's a potential for a good thing. And let's face it, they're not putting these solar farms like in the middle of a residential neighborhood. They're out in the nothing. We got town, and then you go out and there's just nothing. It's out there.
Yeah, some of the big ones are way out there. Ours are a little, obviously, because they're inside city limits.
Yeah.
they're a little bit closer. But even the ones we've approved are on the extreme ends.
Yeah, it's not like it's in a busy residential commercial area. It's someplace a little off the beaten path of the city.
But like I said, I think we're pretty happy about the direction it's going. We'll see actually how many of those get built over the next couple of years.
How I would imagine too. You're talking about the fencing and everything, especially if they're in city limits. That's as much as a security thing for the solar farms. Because let's face it, we know if there's equipment and things, people are going to break in, try to steal it, get the copper, whatever, mine it for whatever values they can get out of it.
Right.
So I would imagine the fences and everything the developers are going to have to put there anyway for their own, equipment protection and security.
Sure.
So.
And it's just a matter of making it a little more, rather than, a chain link fence and something else. Let's decorate it up just
make
a little
more
especially
appealing.
when it's visible from the street. Okay. Maybe set it back just a little bit, throw in a little bit of landscaping.
We can always plant more trees here. I don't think anybody ever complains we have too many trees in Roswell, New Mexico.
Surprisingly enough, not surprisingly, actually, we are going to be working on our landscape ordinance, developing we've got a I don't know if you've heard, but we've got the Master Gardener program is now restarted here.
Yeah.
And we are working with a couple of our local Master Gardeners as well to develop a plant palette that's more suitable for this type of environment.
Nice.
Something that's a little more water efficient, that's a little more hardy. We do have, we have a lot of plants and a lot of trees around here that, quite honestly, I don't think should have ever been planted.
And I've joke about this, and it's really nice, but it's kind of different. Like you look at the historic district and you see these big shade trees and things, and I'm like, I don't think all these are indigenous to this area. I mean, it's beautiful, it's nice, and it reminds me of back in Virginia and Maryland and that area, but I'm like, this is not the landscape of this part of the country.
And it isn't today, but you have to look at who moved here and where they moved from back in the late in the post Civil War era. People were moving from those states and they wanted to create a life and a lifestyle. So they brought with them plants and they brought with them their animals and they brought with them all that stuff and they tried to recreate their little piece of heaven. Well, their little piece of heaven may have been Virginia, or it may have been Kentucky, or it may have been Tennessee, or it may have been Georgia.
Sure.
And so they brought all of those things with them. And you're absolutely correct. They're not indigenous, so they require significantly more water, significantly deeper root systems, and other things. So we're taking a good hard look at that now. And while it hasn't been codified yet, it'll get codified at some point in the future. We are handing out these sheets, and we've got some information that say, look, folks, if you haven't considered these plants, why don't you? We want to, because it's as much a water conservation as it is. It's water conservation, it's soil conservation, it's making sure that we are not only beautiful with our landscaping, but also efficient in our landscaping.
Yeah, picking the right plants and things. It's like, xeriscaping, which is an amazing thing, and I think, everyone should do it, but there's actual xeriscaping, and then there's just putting some rocks around things and some plants and calling that xeriscape, and that's not xeriscape.
That's part of the big problem with the entire concept of xeriscape. Unless you were a landscape architect, no one does it right.
Right.
They believe, I'm going to just do I'm just going to throw some rock down there.
Right.
Well, no, they
think xeriscaping is no grass. That's like, no, that's not
well, turf shouldn't be allowed in most places anyway, except possibly a football field.
Right.
Anyway, but so we're working around all these things. Yeah, we are being cognizant of the fact that this is an arid environment here, and I know everyone likes to talk about the fact we've got all the water in the world. You have all the water in the world until you don't.
Yeah.
And so we need to just be cognizant that we want our water to last for generations. We want to make sure that everybody has something that's aesthetically pleasing.
Sure.
And working with the Master Gardener programs and working with some of our other local gardening groups and things like that. And then, of course, with the state. The state is an amazing agriculture program that they've got a list of things that goes on. So it's all a part of pulling all this data and this information together and making it easily accessible.
Well, when do we as humans know anytime you try to buck against Mother Nature or or just the path of life or, God, whatever your proclivities are, name to me how many times that we go buck against that curve and it goes well for us. It doesn't happen very often. You try to do what Mother Nature doesn't want you to do, and Mother Nature shows you real quick that it's going to happen that way. You know what I mean? So it always amazes me when people try to do stuff. I'm like, it was pretty well set up before you got here. Go ahead, just
I know
work with it.
My dad, who was a civil engineer and a very good civil engineer, of course, I grew up in California, so we grew up with earthquakes and other things, all those other natural phenomena that we don't necessarily. Although we did have a small earthquake here. We
did. We had a couple actually. I think we had one in Texas, but we felt them here. I know I did.
But my dad used to remind me all the time. He said, "Yes, engineers and men, we make plans and." Mother Nature laughs.
So true. And any good engineer that doesn't know that's not a good engineer. I think that's kind of.
But the strides that we have made, and I'm going to be doing an entire presentation, probably February or March of next year, on what's called biophilic planning, biophilic design. And that is, this goes all the way back to the days of Frank Lloyd Wright, where Frank Lloyd Wright was trying to integrate more natural designs and natural materials into the built environment to get that kind of balance between Mother Nature and the built environment. So it's, I'm going to be putting on all of that at a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and if it goes well, I'll bring it up to the City Council as well, because we have a number of people here in town who agree with you. We can use more trees. We were designated Tree City USA 30 years ago, I believe, and I think after getting the designation, and I understand that at one point we had a couple of tree farms out here where we kept the landscaping green, and we would grow our own and then transplant them and maintain them and take care of them. And it appears that some of that is over the years kind of fallen by the wayside. And it really would be nice as the city continues to grow. I've had a couple of people come and ask me, what's the plan for South Main? From we get that 2-mile gap in there that the city owns the street right away. Okay, but on either side of the street is the county. It's the county. And so we have people coming into our airport, people coming in to start new businesses, move to the area, talk about growing new businesses, and they get off in the airport, and then they have to drive that 2-mile gap, and that's their introduction to Roswell.
And they're like, well, this ain't that impressive. A whole lot of nothing here.
Yeah, a whole lot of nothing right there. And, but so I've had people ask me, what can we do to at least dress up the entrance of the city so that 2-mile gap has some nice landscaping, even if we do it just within the right limits of the right of way and things like that. So those are the things we're looking at. But the last item we had on the agenda, we had 2 of those solar arrays. The last item we had on the agenda, though, was and this is the second time I've seen this happen now in the city, is we've had a developer come in and request permits and request zone changes and things for a development. And then they go back and they start talking to their marketing people and they start doing their market research and realize we didn't get enough. There's
Popeyes
more.
did that.
Popeyes was the first.
Yeah.
Last night was the second one with the RV park.
They said because I know we talked about this about 3-4 months ago.
Yeah, it was about 3 or 4 months ago.
And they kind of got the green lit to get everything approved.
We got everything approved and everything was done. And about a month later, they came back and said, hey, we think that there's enough activity in the industry and there's enough information out there that we'd like to go ahead and add another 10 acres to the previously approved 20 acres.
Great.
And so that they've got direct access to 2nd
So
Street.
a third the size bigger.
Yeah. So and they want to start, of course, out on 2nd Street. That'll relieve some of the traffic concerns that were expressed at the previous meetings on Alameda and some of the others. So it was actually a very good thing.
So it turned out more is less headache in this one.
In term,
less is more. Usually, but this one's more is less headache.
Sometimes it just works out that way. So we worked with them and figured out what it is that they wanted and what their concerns were and agreed that was the direction to go. They put in their applications and that was approved last night. So
this is my naivete on running an RV park, but I imagine the infrastructure, other than getting hookups for water and electric and all that, and bathrooms. I imagine there's not a whole lot of infrastructure they have to really put in place other than those hookups and things.
These days with some of these Class A RVs being as big and heavy as and any bus, actually, they're bigger and heavier than most buses.
And you don't need a regular. That's the part that scares me, but that's another conversation.
So making sure that the roads are designed to handle those kind of loads and everything else, and then you still have to make sure that you've got appropriate ingress and egress for emergency vehicles, for trash trucks, and all the other various maintenance things that
plot it really
on.
Well.
But as far as you're essentially building a medium density subdivision when you do an RV park now. The only difference is the houses aren't static; they're mobile. They move in and out and plug into everything. So the water, sewer, electricity, in some cases even natural gas or propane, and the big thing these days is even for our regular single family homes is communications. Your internet and everything else. You got a lot of people that are road warriors now, or even people that are retired that are living full time in their RVs, and they want to stay connected to the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
And then in any kind of upscale RV resort, they expect to have some kind of community building. These days, more and more, you're finding that kind of an office away from the office as well, or
kind of like the hotel amenities with the little gym and court or business center and all that stuff.
All of those things, and of course even beyond that, having a dog park, place where you can walk and exercise your dog, having the nice landscaping. You don't want to be right on top. These days, the actual places where you park the vehicles, you go in, they keep growing larger and larger because we have you have a 40-foot trailer, 20-foot truck, and slide outs on either side.
Right.
So what used to be about a 30-foot long vehicle that was only 8.5 feet wide is now 60 feet long and 12 to 14 feet wide. But it's if you've been in any of these new RVs lately or been to an RV show, it truly is like a mobile condo. I mean, some of these are incredibly upscale now, and I keep looking at it with my wife, and my wife keeps looking at me, and it's like, I don't know, that might be the way to go in retirement here. We just pull up stakes and then of course you drive past the gas station and you look at the cost of fuel.
Yeah, then you're like, never mind, I can't afford it. For me, it's just I don't want the stress of driving a house around the country, and not hitting and backing into things and all that. If I had somebody to do that for me, and I just sit back there and eat snacks and live my life, I'd be good to go. So, but that doesn't work that way.
Not always.
Not most of the time, unless you're a rock star or something. But anyway, but good deal. So that's a good thing. So so it is, I imagine that's going to push back construction and a little bit of the process of getting it ready in just a month or two.
I was as we were exiting the meeting last night, I spent a few minutes talking to the builder, and they've already retained all the other consultants that they need. So they've already got their civil engineer, they've already got their land surveyor, they've already got everything. They've got at least some of the work done already based on the preliminary work they did for the previous.
So they're not going to be
project,
that behind.
They're not going to be that far behind.
Good.
No, I would.
For them.
I would imagine that that you'll see dirt moving out there the first quarter of next year. So.
Good deal. Well, and of course, speaking of this delay thing, it looks like Popeyes is getting they're starting to look like a building and starting to look like a facility there.
Yeah, they
not
are.
quite ready, obviously.
Not quite ready, but getting very close. I keep hoping that, all right, we didn't make Thanksgiving. Okay, will we make it for the January 1, bowl games and everything else?
Yeah.
Because and then if worst case scenario,
Super Bowl.
Yeah. Can we say that? Or do we have to say the big game?
I think we can say, as long as we're not advertising a product while saying Super Bowl.
Oh, okay.
It's not like saying, at the Super Bowl, get your Coca-Cola. I don't know how
I don't know. We
but-
kind of just said, hey, Popeyes for Super Bowl. No.
Sorry, NFL. We'll cut you a check for a nickel. But I'm curious because I saw work going on in front of Firehouse Subs too. And I know that there's been some delays and things there, but
Right.
I don't know if you heard one way or another, like any progress on that one, whether or at least a tentative date or something.
I have not heard a tentative date. I know that there's been some ongoing discussions between that developer and Firehouse Subs themselves.
Okay.
I'm not sure the status of those discussions, but the good thing is, though, I believe all 4 of the other suites are now filled.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so the building is full with the exception of Firehouse Subs, which, of course, is an indication of the economic activity out there.
That's a good sign.
And that developer has actually come back and requested to build another building a little further up the street, very similar. So
Business is good.
Yeah. The activity that's going on that is just the regular day-to-day activity has been incredible. The people coming in and wanting to do additions to their houses, the people that are coming in and just wanting to add a carport or garage and things like that. But then the smaller developments all around, a new office building here or a renovation over there or just somebody coming in and applying for a new business license. It is a constant stream through our offices. And we're seeing a lot of renewed activity on the west end of 2nd Street. We're seeing a lot of renewed activity on the north end of Main Street. But we're also starting to see, I met with a builder and developer and a few other people about a couple of different projects in South Main as well.
Good.
So the activity is citywide now, and
good to see growth all parts of the city. That's
we're going to, and those are just the things that are happening spontaneously, beginning here in the very near future. In fact, we've already. You were probably, I know you weren't out there, but did you hear about the cleanup that was done in the Chihuahuita neighborhood?
Yes, yeah.
And our office was part of that. We were out there helping everybody, and I took a lot of pictures and, like everyone, posted them all on Facebook so that everybody could see the work that was being done.
And there's more to come on the Chihuahuita project. They've got a lot planned in there. And if people that live in that district or grew up in that district, they're looking for people to get involved to help kind of plot the future of that district.
And we're going to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So, in fact, there's a meeting coming up. I believe it's December 9th.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
A community meeting at the Boys and Girls Club over there. So we've been spending, and by we, I mean community development, code enforcement, the building office, and everybody else, along with a couple of our city council people, because that is in Ward 1, and they're very concerned about that area. Been spending a great deal of time over there, and then right after the first of the year, after we have a couple of these meetings, and what we're trying to find out is what direction does the community want to go out there? Do they really want to look at it from a historical perspective, or do we just want to do neighborhood revitalization? I mean, do we need to add, what infrastructure do we need to add? I know Alameda through that area right now is a bit of a problem because it's a through street that connects Atkinson and Garden, and people use it as a bypass for Second at times. And so the traffic gets to be a little bit excessive and the speeds get to be a little bit excessive. So we've got to do something about that.
Sure.
Certainly, I believe it's Nancy Lopez School that is just to the east of there.
Yeah.
Okay. The whole concept of the Safe Routes to School program, making sure that we have sidewalks and crosswalks, that we've got reduced traffic speeds and everything else. That's first and foremost on a lot of people's minds as well. And then, of course, the general cleanup and the look and the feel of the area.
Preserving some of the history of that district and everything else.
I've spent a great deal of time here lately over at the Historic Society and combing through books and archives and looking at all the older materials. It seems it's a good thing I'm I'm not even a closet historian these days anymore. I am way out.
You're
of the closet.
full out of the closet.
I am way out of the closet on my the desire to learn about the history of this, and that. Folks, I've talked to a couple of people that are natives that have never set foot in our historical society building.
Isn't that a great archive facility and all that?
Gosh, between the archives they have and the books they've got for sale, and just talking to the people that are there and knowing and understanding, it's
a treasure.
It is a treasure. Yeah, that's probably the way I would put it as well.
That's why I've been a part of that board for several years now, and I love what it's part of what I think is important.
It is
our community. I think it's important.
Bless you for the work that you're doing. Because
I did easy. I show up to board meetings and stuff. They do a lot harder work than I do. But I walk around there and act like an idiot for 10 minutes, and then I leave.
But that is another one of the districts and another one of the areas that our office is talking about. And we're talking to some of the people who are members of that, and of course Lee in itself, that stretch just from 2nd Street to about 5th or 6th right there with those amazing buildings. And you've had Mark and Maria Bleth come in there with their brand new
Hacienda Amor
de Amor and what they're doing. So we want to make sure that we're working, because our zoning and development code provides neither incentives nor protections for that historic district. And I was able to dig through our archives at the city, and I found some attempts at a historic preservation ordinance and other things that have never been put together. So that's another item that's on my agenda for the new year. So that we'll be sitting down with everybody and say, okay, folks, this entire district is a treasure for this city, and it needs to be preserved and protected. But we also need to have a mechanism where the cost of the preservation and the protection can be underwritten by utilizing these buildings in a way that make them income producing as opposed to just an expense to the owner. And so that's where this adaptive reuse comes in. Can we reutilize these buildings for bed and breakfast? Can we reuse them for offices, for lawyers and doctors' offices and other things that will integrate well into the neighborhood, that will allow those buildings to be income producing, which will then allow that money, that income, to be put back into the building, back into the neighborhood, which preserves the neighborhood intact.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a balancing act. We certainly don't want it to become a commercial district per se. It's still a historic district.
You still want that feel of,
but we have an income producing potential there that should be available to everybody, so that they can maintain those buildings. Because there's a couple that I drive by and it just make me sad right now, because I look at them and they're gorgeous, old, antebellum type housing there, and they're just in serious disrepair. And
that does more to detract than attract in that district.
Correct.
But hopefully down the road here we can make a bigger impact in that area, and it's great to see. And by the way, a quick plug: December 15th, they're doing their light up at the museum there and everything on Lee Street. So come out that evening about 5:30. Comes the first 50 get a free little gift bag and all this, but they're gonna have the lights light up and lit up the whole area, and they'd love to have people come and see it. And then the Hacienda de Amor, they're gonna do free cocoa and coffee. So kind of there and park and walk around. That's December 15th. So
December 15th.
Let them come in that about 5:30. Come out and see the lights, see all the fun, and just kind of a big happy holidays, and thank you everybody for coming out.
Well, while we're plugging the Historical Society, we better plug Main Street Roswell.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got the parade. We got the nighttime parade of lights coming up, starting at 6 p.m. Friday. Yeah, this Friday. It'll come down. I mean, Santa Claus will be there, and I believe we got the tree lighting ceremony as well in front of the courthouse building. And from what I understand, yes, there'll be hot chocolate and there'll be all kinds of other things. But the next day is going to be the fun one. That's going to be the market movie. Yeah, there on the courtore lawn. So
this weekend's going to be a big fun time.
It's going to be fun. So I'll be out and about checking everything out.
Yeah. Go to mainstreetroswell.org or follow their Main Street Roswell Facebook page. You can kind of see they got a flyer just like the one that's back here.
There you go.
It's got a list of all the different activities, events that are happening Friday and Saturday. That way you can look at it and kind of pick and choose what ones appeal to you the most to make sure you don't want to miss.
Yeah.
So that's probably the easiest way for folks to kind of plot and plan for Friday and Saturday out here, in between football games and everything. Because we have the Wool Bowl Friday night out here with NMMI, JUCO in Lackawanna College. So we got a bowl game Friday. It's a busy time in Roswell right now.
You know, I laugh every time I hear that the commercial and the promo. Lackawanna's from Scranton.
Yes.
And one of my wife's favorite TV shows is The Office, which was based in Scranton.
Yeah, Scranton.
So I just get a big smile on my face every time I hear that the team is coming out from Scranton.
And growing up as a kid, I'm from Maryland. I grew up in southern Maryland. My father's parents lived in Binghamton, New York. So during the summers, they'd send me up to New York to live with my grandparents for a couple weeks, like 2 weeks during the summer, hang out, live with your grandparents. A lot of families did that kind of stuff. So when we do those trips, sometimes they meet in the middle and they go meet at this park and have a picnic and everything, and then they swap us, and then my grandparents take us up, and then they do the same thing. But we always met in Scranton, Pennsylvania. There was this park right outside of Scranton. So when I think of Scranton, I think of this park we used to go to have picnics and swim and meet and do the swap. There they go. That was like a tradition, and during the summers at our house.
I just want to know whether or not the trip is being underwritten by Dunder Mifflin.
That's right. I would love that. Would be so funny if you just see Dunder Mifflin is some kind of weird sponsor on something and something on the literature. Yeah. That would be funny. But I was talking earlier for football fans. I think we may have an former NFL player in the audience. I'm just. Because LeVar Arrington, NFL pro, he played for Washington. He played for another team or two, though, as well. Went to Penn State. Well, his son is a linebacker safety type on Lackawanna College. So I'm wondering, his son's in the bowl game. He might come out and be sitting in the Wool Bowl watching his son play on Friday. Just saying. I can't guarantee it, but I'm saying there's a chance, chance. I mean, if my kid's in a bowl game, I'm going to travel and see it.
I think you should, unless you happen to be playing on the same day.
Yeah, exactly. Which he hasn't played in years. He's been retired. He's a little long in the tooth for football play. Yeah. Although I wouldn't mess with him. He's still a big dude.
I'm sure. There's a lot of those guys you don't mess with way into.
Yeah. He last time I saw him, he's still a big dude, but hardly football shape from his playing days. But I just saw the time. Is there anything we wanted to make sure we cover, Kevin, or did we pretty much get it off?
I think we pretty much covered everything, unless you want to just chit-chat about your opening theme and things like that, which puts a smile on my face every morning. Like I was saying earlier, it's just you found the one line in the one movie that is probably the most inoffensive line in the entire movie.
Yeah, but it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Especially when I first saw the movie as a boy, and fart jokes are like, that's the top tier of jokes with that age, that they get no funnier than those, and that scene makes me laugh. Even as an adult, I crack up every time I watch that scene. And then your opening theme song, that the Mexican radio, that cracks me up as well. Which is a remake. That's not the original.
That's not the original. Yeah. The original, I believe, though, was done in the early 80s, right about that time.
And it may have been a little sooner than that, or a little earlier than that. It might have been late 70s.
I grew up, when I was in junior high and high school, I remember of course, the big dog in terms of the big flamethrowers, the AM flamethrower out there was KFI, AM 640, KFI. And then along comes this XTRA, the mighty 690, 150,000 watts coming out of Tijuana, Mexico.
Wow.
And every time I hear that, I'm on the now that's where the towers were, and that's where all the mechanical stuff and the electronic stuff. The studio, though, was in downtown San Diego.
Gotcha.
So the guys that were on air, this was an English language station. They played top 40 music, the mighty 690. Okay. And they were only 2 clicks, up the dial from KFI.
Okay.
And they would just stomp the signal. Absolutely stomp all over the signal. If you were below about 710, you could get, you got the mighty 690 all over the western United States.
Wow.
Especially at night.
And that's why we have the FCC, not for content, but for stuff like that. That's
Well, they didn't stop much of that for a long time.
I know. That's what they're supposed to be doing, is keeping people from overmodulating their signals and everything.
I just remember, XRTA.
Yeah, I know the thing. It's
the mighty 690.
Well, I got to tell you, real quick, like our Spanish station, we have 4 radio stations.
Yeah.
We have a Spanish station, and here's just a factoid nugget. We were on a tower in Carlsbad with that for years, but we wanted to move that signal to our tower in Artesia.
Mm-hmm.
But because we're less than 200 miles from the Mexican border, we had to get permission from the Mexican government as well as the FCC to move that antenna because of the signals. Even though we're not a Mexican station or assigned to Mexico, we had to, and of course Mexican government, nothing works fast, so you had to pay off a few lawyers to bump your thing up the list to get it all and done. But yeah, we had the whole rigmarole just to move our antenna from Carlsbad to Artesia with the Mexican government. Nothing to do with our government.
Right.
It was just an interesting thing.
It was amazing, being involved in the radio industry back in those days and learning. I mean, AM radio in and of itself, because of the way it's transmitted, has got such potential reach. I mean, so much more than FM radio.
Well, and by law, they have to power down at night. Otherwise, they'll go
except
forever.
for the ones that power up.
Yeah,
but
most are supposed to power down at night.
But I happened to work for a station that was they had a directional antenna.
Yeah.
They were out in the high desert, so we were North LA County. But at night, we would power up to, I think, 50,000 watts, and you could go 10 miles west towards Los Angeles, and you couldn't hear us.
Wow.
But you could hear us in Las Vegas, going to the east.
Yeah.
Because of the directional antennas and stuff. And then occasionally, I spent my summers on my grandfather's farm in southeast Missouri, Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And I'd be flipping around the dial at night, and if the weather conditions were just right, I'm picking up KFI, and I'm picking up KHJ, and I'm picking up all these, all depending on the atmospheric conditions.
Yeah, it's all in a grid is how that works at AM. So like you get in that little grid, next thing you know, you're hearing stuff from Canada, Mexico, everything in that grid section there. It's pretty interesting.
It is.
Good deal. Well, I just saw time. I got to get one thing in before they kick us off till news here. So, Kevin, appreciate as always the visit. We'll see you here next time. Okay?
All right, Mike. And if I don't see you before, well, we've already had Thanksgiving. I was going to say Merry Christmas, but I think we will see you before.
I think I'll see you in there
like
right
a day or two before Christmas.
Yeah, right in that wheelhouse there. So.
Okay.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, sir. Bye-bye.
All right, 7:59. Quick sports before news. Don't go away.